Hi, this is Kendra from Pencil and Pigment, and today I wanted to talk about composition. Now I am doing, this is an A6 Lecterm. I purchased this in 2021. It is currently discontinued, but I will link in the description box the sketchbooks that Lecterm sells now, along with other companies that sell this A6 size, in case this seems like a really fun size for you. I wanted to talk, composition. So I am using this vertically, but I could have totally used this horizontally, and that would change the feeling and the way I go about including what I'm drawing. Now I've elected for this challenge to do primarily like the heads, the half the body. To me, the most important part is kind of the head. You see I've done a few birds already. I don't think the fish works. That's okay. But that's my main concentration, is the face of the animal. And that's the most dynamic thing. Now, due to time constraints and general interest, I am mainly focusing just on the main subject matter. Now, it's up to you and how you draw and how fast you create and what you choose to do as to how much time you have versus your interests in creating a subject matter within its own set of context. Now it could be a pattern background, it can be just a blank space, you could do a textural element, you could write things. There's tons of different options. Again, I'm going with face here. I am drawing a bird. I am doing the Dodo, and I'm gonna see if I can, let's see if I can sort of fit him on a page a little bit. Again, I think the most dynamic thing about the Dodo is the beak. It has a very specific large hooked beak, like you would kind of think of toucans and some of those birds in that family. So I'll show you some like reference photos online of what this bird looks like front facing. And front facing, you kind of don't get the beak. And again, I feel like that's one of the things that's so dynamic about this bird. And these are the choices and decisions you have to make. You, the illustrator, you, the artist, the painter, the designer, you decide what's most important. Again, maybe you want to draw him really small on the page and you want a bunch of them. Maybe you're doing like a pattern repeat type of thing and you're working on some fabric or something, or maybe you're just doing one and you're doing sort of like an Ice Age thing and you want to have, what he looks like out in nature. I'm trying to figure out the best way to do this. We need to have his lower mandible jaw thing. Okay. All right. Okay. Trying to draw him from memory. I don't know if you can see this. I'll zoom in, but yeah, I'm trying to draw him from memory. So I want the beak, I want the face, and then there's going to be a little context of neck, as he's kind of a funny looking chicken. Here, I'll zoom in. Okay, and I've just lightly sketched the outline shape. Now, again, to me and to this vertical size, I'm highlighting the face and I'm trying to sort of fill, like there isn't too much negative space here. There's not a lot, but if I wanted to include some other element like a food thing or a note, like there's space to do that a little bit. Thinking about different angles. Now, part of the challenge of this challenge is that there aren't a lot of references of some of these things, and I kind of have to go off of references other people have created. And that's artistic licensing and artistic interpretation and trying to figure out like the accuracy, especially with things I've never seen in person, like dinosaurs. Wanting to do fun, unique angles of different animals. If you've never seen them in person or there aren't a lot of references like lying about, that can be a very fun, it can be a very challenging challenge. Try not to make his eyes so big. A very challenging challenge. So you'll have to decide for yourself, sort of, again, what orientation you want your page layout to be, and maybe you want it to be a double spread. Keep in mind when you do a double spread across the spine, across the crease, there's stitching in this book. Some books are glued, how they're bound together. You don't want the main subject kind of on the crease, maybe off to the side a little bit. It's a little distracting. It's something to think about for like design emphasis and composition, like where you have him at. You can think about like some of the photography positions, like rule of thirds. Whereas if your page is divided into 9, your main subject matter is like a third of that. And that is a way to incorporate it on the page and make sure you have enough space for your background and some of the other things you want to show, like other things you feel that are important to the context of your main subject matter. Composition's kind of one of those things where you get more comfortable with it the more you draw, the more you create, the more you paint, the more you do your stuff. And you kind of figure out, you have to tailor some of it to the supplies you have. So if my sketchbook were more square, I think having him and his squatty body within the square of the sketchbook would look better. Like that would look better to have more of the body in there, not just the face, or just a zoomed portion of the head to fill that kind of square. I'm going to throw up unique stylized things of interesting ways people have filled the page with their own unique style, because you can definitely take something that isn't like square in nature and make it fill a square by sort of stylizing the whole thing. And again, that's artist interpretation, that's artist licensing, it's your choice. It's all composition. And maybe you just want to do loose sketches like this. Maybe you want to take a big A4 size page and you want to draw some rectangles horizontally, vertically, you want to draw some squares, and you want to lay out how you would do the composition in each of those shapes, and you do them like postage stamp size. And you see how that looks on the page, and you can be zoomed out from it. You can look from a distance and go, okay, that kind of fills the page, that kind of leaves too much on the insides. I like that, but what would I do with those little end bits? Like you can really start to get a sense of how it's filling. I'm gonna grab my sepia, and my sepia has been doing a lot of work for this drawing challenge. This is a convenience color. You can layer your brown, like your walnut brown, with black to get sepia. But if you use a lot of that layering, you may want to consider in the future buying a convenience color to save on time. So that's the only reason why I pointed out. And I'm burnishing. I'm pressing really, really hard. I don't want any of the white to show through for this beak portion. Yeah, I'm gonna throw up pictures. And some of these things, like Autobahn illustrations and things of birds that have long since passed and there were no, like before photography and stuff, you're kind of going off somebody else's illustration, and you have to sort of understand and acknowledge that there's a style within that. That artist specific style is drawing that bird, that's created that bird. And maybe that's not how you would do it, but because you don't have a real life reference, you kind of have to interpret it from there. And that's another challenge with some of this stuff, with drawing animals that you don't see in person. Like one of my favorite birds to draw is the scarlet ibis. And I'll throw up some pictures of what I've done. I've painted it and I've drawn it with colored pencils and stuff. I've seen that bird in person. That bird in person, it is the most surreal looking. I don't even know that it's scarlet. It's like this orange that's almost day glow. It looks like somebody turned up the vibrancy, but just for that one bird. And everything around it looks dull in comparison. And it's small and it runs really fast. Like that bird is just extraordinary in color. And I think if I had only seen references of it, I wouldn't draw it that bright, because I would think in my mind, like, that can't possibly be realistic. That bird wouldn't survive being that bright colored, and I know he's not poisonous. He's not a patoo or one of those, oh gosh, I'll throw up a picture of one of those poisonous birds. Anyway, yeah, no, he's absolutely day glow bright, and it's unreal. And if I hadn't seen it in person, I wouldn't lean into it that heavily. Honestly, I just wouldn't. It doesn't seem like something that just exists out in nature. It doesn't seem practical to me. And again, I don't work with a lot of orange and a lot of red, so I'm very conservative when I use those colors, and that's part of my style, and that's part of my preference choice, and that takes some of the realism out of things I go to create that are those colors, because I'm not heavy-handed with them. I don't like them so much, so I don't want as much of them on the page. So some of this I am guesstimating. And when I lay him out on the page, I mean, if I did him front facing, you would get more of the head. You would absolutely get more of the head, but you lose the weird hook. The amount of, like, that the front beak hangs over the bottom one it's substantial. I mean, I could keep going with it. It's substantial. So I want to highlight some of the things that make this guy so incredibly unique. And I'm going to use some black. And I've been using a lot of black for this drawing challenge for sure. I need some drop shadow here to be able to tell the two jaws apart here. I apologize if you can hear lots of outside noises. I have my balcony door open for my cat. Gosh, they're spoiled. She's just laying in the sunshine, but she doesn't like that door closed if she's out there. It makes her nervous. Okay. We are working on this. And this is some of it's trial and error. Some of it you got to throw it on the page and go, okay, I like that. That works for this. That doesn't work for the other one. One of these, it doesn't work. Okay. This is the Tasmanian wolf, the Tasmanian tiger. He looks like Wile E. Coyote. It's fine. It's a choice. It's fine. What you lose in just showing the face is the body. And what's unique about the body is the stripes. And that's what makes him incredible. So for some of this, just showing the face, it doesn't work. And I have to decide, well, I decided long ago, the 1st of January, that I was going to do faces. Knowing full well that when I got to the Tasmanian tiger, it wouldn't be very strong. Like, that could be the head of a coyote or, you know, some sort of, I don't know, misshapen fox or something. You really lose what makes that animal so unique and why it was in zoos and stuff before it went extinct in the, I think 1936. That guy went extinct. So for most of these, it works just showing the face. And some of them, it doesn't. Like the fish is kind of weird because you need fins and you need tail because it's fish. But I wanted to keep it uniform. I wanted all the pages to flow and be really, really similar as part of the curation of this sketchbook. But it's not a success for every animal. It doesn't work for every animal. It's not the best angle and the best viewpoint for every animal. So those are some of the considerations, like, oh, well, then maybe don't be so rigid and have each page just look completely different. Some be heads and some be bodies, and I could have alternated between the two and made sure that the one page that was body were the animals where you needed the body, and I just decided just to do heads. Again, part of that is just stylistic choice. Part of that was realizing that I'm doing a year of drawing challenges. So I'm starting my year being a kind of really uniform really, I'm taking all the options and choices out of it. I don't want that many choices with everything. I don't want the decision fatigue, because I'm going to get into decision fatigue as I move through the year with some of the stuff I have planned. Like there's going to be too many options, too many colors, too many pages, too vast a subject matter. So in order to combat some of that early on and pace myself, because again, this is a marathon, not a sprint, I'm just removing that. So I'm not trying to beat myself up or rake myself over the coals about not every page being the pinnacle of perfection or whatever. I'm just stating for composition purposes, these are all things to think about. How the composition can work for X, Y, and Z, but then W is left out every single time. And when you're thinking about putting sketchbooks together that have like a uniform flow from page to page, where they look like they all belong together, like each one individual tells a story, but together it tells a complete story. Thinking about some of that, yeah. I'm moving into browns. Moving into my browns. I'm pretty sure this is my walnut brown. Like he's having a tough time. He's shrinking. He's shrinking. So I'm definitely gonna have to do, in the summer when I do a purchase order, there's gonna be a lot of colored pencils. Because some of them are just getting way too tiny. So you can see the beak coming together, and for this composition, for this bird, it works. Now, some people, when they do their sketchbooks, they do a completely different thing every day. Like maybe they will have a stylized original character, and then the next day they'll have some fun like pen and ink botanicals, and then the next day they'll just throw in a landscape, and the next day after that it'll be like food still life. You can absolutely do your sketchbooks any way you want to. Any way you want to. In fact, those are a really fun like warm-up challenge type of style to just pick what you're thinking about for the day and do some warm-up sketches and drawings of that. I'm doing an illustration challenge, so everything is off of my main subject matter and it all flows. There is a huge amount of rigidity within that that's not very flexible. Like I can't suddenly throw in a leaf drawing. That's not what this is. And it being that rigid takes a lot of the guesswork out for me. So I don't have to decide what to draw. I don't sit here for an hour. I have a pattern. It's bird, animal, 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 dinosaur, bird, animal, 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 dinosaur. Like I know how many birds I'm throwing in. I know how many dinosaurs I'm throwing in. That way it's not too much of any one thing. Like it's very calculated. And that way some days I don't even have to think about it. I just look at my list of animals and go, okay, what birds do I have? Check to make sure they're still extinct. I had to do that. One of the birds has come back, so I'm super excited. I'm going to include that in my December drawing challenge. This animal made a comeback. This bird made a comeback. I'm very, very excited. Kind of bummed I don't get to draw him in January, but I'm glad I don't get to draw him in January. That means he's doing well. So I love blue animals. Blue animals, blue birds, all the things. So again, I'm not sure what exact color the beaks are. I'm just kind of going off of references from previous, because I've drawn this bird several times. I think this bird is mostly like earth tones and stuff. And then if I wanted to include what are you? This is dark cadmium orange. If I wanted to include the orange that kind of matches this book, I can layer that over at the end of my beak and sort of tie it into the front cover. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that yet. That's sort of one of the other things about composition, is the flow of colors from page to page to page. And some of my animals are bright and they match the book cover, and some of them are more complementary and they really bring out the orange of the book cover, and most of them, the bulk of them, are browns. So I may throw in some spot color on some of my previous illustrations of this orange that matches the cover, and I may throw in a little bit of indigo shadowing, so there's a little bit of complement to make the orange really pop. They are opposite each other on the color wheel. Again, these are compositional choices of how I want everything to flow and sort of be relevant together for this whole thing telling a story of extinction. Now, there's a company called Colossal something something, I'll throw up the name. They are trying to bring back the dodo, and I was reading about that last night. So I try and figure out what I'm drawing the day before, that way day of. Like, I don't have to hunt around and search around. Like, I know in the back of my mind what I'm doing. It just makes it easier just to sort of sit down and go and create. But I fell down the rabbit hole of reading. And they're trying to bring back a bunch of stuff. They're trying to bring back the woolly mammoth. They're trying to bring back the Tasmanian tiger, the thylacine. That animal has a lot of names, so I apologize for referring to it in so many different ones. I can link articles about that guy though. He's so cool looking. Anyway, they're trying to bring them back using like DNA and stuff, and I don't know how any of that works. Like, it's fascinating, and I just do it. I want to see one. I want to see one. I mean, so I've read Jurassic Park. That book is a lot to unpack. I only read the first one, and then I've seen the movies. I think I've seen almost all the movies. I like action films, and I just love dinosaurs, so there's that. But I don't think I'd feel comfortable going to a dinosaur park, and that is long before I'd seen the movies. I don't have a huge adrenaline drive. I don't have a huge like danger drive, like, oh, that sounds dangerous, let's do it. I don't have one of those. So you'll never catch me skydiving or bungee jumping or like anything thrill seeking. I'm not that gal, like, at all. Like, I just like my feet on the ground, and I'll just sit here and draw a rock, and you can go in an airplane and do all the things. Yeah, so I would never be down to see dinosaurs in real life, just because it sounds dangerous, and I'm not into it. I'm not into it. Even seeing like monkeys in the zoo, like, I'm wary. I'm very, very wary of monkeys in a zoo. And it's not just like gorillas or orangutans, it's all of them, like chimpanzees especially. I don't know what it is, like, it makes me nervous. I'm a delicate flower. Yep, sure am. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't mind drawing. I don't mind drawing all kinds of things that are dangerous, animal-wise. I've never done an arachnid challenge of just spiders, or like a lethal animal type challenge. I've never done anything like that. I've done some poisonous things for like Halloween challenges and scary things. But again, those are tied to Halloween drawing challenges. And I like those. I like drawing scary things, or painting scary things. I wouldn't do it every single month, but I do enjoy it once in a while. Yeah, so we've gotten off topic from composition, haven't we? I apologize. Again, tons and tons of like warm-up exercises can really, really help with trying to figure out the best layout for the space you have. Again, I am doing vertical orientation, so as a warm-up exercise, like on this side, I could have drawn 4 rectangles, very similar to shape to the whole page, and drawn what I thought would fit and look good on there. Yeah, some of it's trial and error. Some of it, you can look at other artists that are fluent in the subject matter you're interested in. You can look on Pinterest, you can look on Instagram, how people choose their layout. And their thought process behind their layout can be really, that's why I always talk about mine, and I talk about curating sketchbooks, and I talk about like what the heck I think I'm doing in my mind, because I think the thought process behind some of this and how an artist thinks is fascinating, and I think that can be really, really helpful when trying to figure out composition. Again, go to your local library and get cookbooks. And you're like, I own cookbooks. Well, yes, you should. Cookbooks are amazing. The layout of the food in the photos, how they choose, they've cooked, hypothetical, they've cooked a square brownie, okay? They're doing desserts in this cookbook. And it's on a vertical, rectangular size page. So instead of just showing the one brownie where it's a square on a rectangle, they'll stack it. So you see the side view of the brownie and it's stacked. There'll be 3 or 4 of them, and it fills the vertical page. That is their composition, to highlight the food and fill the page and have it look good. Look at cookbooks. That is literally how they help keep their food looking appetizing, the page from looking empty. They're trying to appeal to the buyer, the consumer, the baker, the chef. They're trying to appeal to you. And a way to do that is to make their stuff look as visually appealing as possible. So they have to find really clever ways of highlighting and including shapes on their page. I'm gonna close the door, hold on. Okay, sorry about that. I live in the forest, so search and rescue. Shout out to search and rescue. Thank you. We appreciate you. You have done an amazing job of searching and rescuing folks. Shout out to all the first responders. You're amazing, and I adore you beyond all measure. Okay, so it doesn't have to be, going back to composition, it doesn't have to be specific art books talking about composition. It can literally be any book that has photographs or drawings. It could be any book about anything. So you can pick up literally like a Hans Christian Andersen or Grimm fairy tale or something. You know, it could be a children's book, and how they include their illustration within their page orientation is their composition, and what they choose to include, what's important to them. But I find, personally, that when it's photographs, you get kind of a better understanding, because it's less so much personal preference of the artist and more like when somebody's drawing, you don't have a lot of options with photography. Like there's certain things you just have to include, especially when it comes to cookbooks. And that becomes a challenge of, okay, so this page is horizontal layout. We want to show a bowl of pasta. We want it to look appealing. What angle do we show that from? What bowl do we use? Do we use a really low, narrow bowl? Do we use an absolutely huge one and crop part of it off? How do we show that and make it look appetizing and pleasing? So not only do you want to make the pasta or eat the pasta, you want to buy this book. The photo speaks to you. Look at the colors. Look at how they've, think of the color wheel, and look at how they've included complementary colors, which are the colors opposite each other on the color wheel. So look at how they do that with their food, with garnishing, with embellishments of the dishes or the napkins, or they'll include like a vase of flowers with the food that has very similar color palette. Again, that's really, really helpful for like still life drawings. When you include like a dish of food or a couple pieces of fruit plus a vase, and it's like lemons, and then the vase has yellow daisies, you're doing like a strength through repetition with those colors, and that's part of the composition. And then how they're positioned on the canvas or the page, or how you choose to put that on your surface when you're creating with the medium you're creating with. There are so many books. You can literally go through your own personal shelves and start pulling out books and looking at everything of how things are oriented and looking. I mean, I could even pull out one of our dictionaries and the pages in which they choose to include photos for some of the definitions. It's very strategic in a appealing sort of bouncy way. It's not all lined up and uniform. So it bounces your eye around, so you look at both pages and all of the pages. Like it's all strategic. All of it's strategic from a marketing standpoint, but if you look at it from a visually appealing art standpoint, you can start to see the compositions and the stylistic choices that make some of the pages and the photographs and some of the things, why they're so strong, like why it's such a success, what works and what doesn't work. Not every single photo and every single book you have, you're going to like or think works well, but a majority of them will, and that's why the book was sold. Like there was a page layout, there was a designer that helped with some of that. There was the original artists themselves that helped with that. And baking and cooking are definitely an art, as in plating the food and doing that setup of the dishes. Like that's all, there's art forms to that. So definitely start going through the books you own and look at how things are plated and presented on each page. Like, you know, if you're looking at cupcakes or you're looking at cookies, maybe you have like a holiday cookie book. Look at how, especially books that are thematic, where it's one thing they're trying to show you over and over and over. So if you have a cookie cookbook, every single page is a different style and layout of how they're presenting and showing the cookies. And they're trying to get original with it every single time, because they really want to keep it engaging and not have it feel so repetitive. So again, it appeals to you and you want to buy the book, but it's still in a similar style, so it looks uniform and fits together. Really check out some of that. Like I have a cookbook, I think that's all drawings. You know what, I'm gonna go grab it, hold on. I want to show you this book. Our interests are as varied as our dietary restrictions in our house. Shout out to those with autoimmune diseases. We love you, we adore you, we feel you. So, The Great Scandinavian Baking Book. This is by Beatrice Ojankas. I apologize, that's probably a terrible pronunciation. This is a stack of very thin cookies. This is a very specific vertical orientation, and to just stick one cookie on there, and it could be, you know, you're looking down at the cookie, the square cookie. It's just a lot of negative space, and they chose to fill it by stacking it. This is a very thoughtful strength and repetition, reinforces the vertical orientation. And then, you know, they have like herb and a little ribbon that flows your eye around, okay? This composition is very strong. And then the green of the ribbon is here in the Scandinavian, okay? It's a lighter tint of this color. Now, most of this book doesn't have anything except little tiny like doodles. There's no photos in this book. But when you look at, think of this as a horizontal, they have a horizontal basket. It's all reaffirming the same shape. This is kind of a square. They have a square gingerbread house, and then they've drawn it out. I'm not specifically advertising this book. Again, a lot of people don't like cookbooks that don't have photographs. But, you know, I'm part Norwegian, so we're gonna represent. a little bit represent. Okay, so think of the square, think of this square. It's the illustrations in here really kind of fill the page and reinforce the shape. This is a lot of negative space. That's a choice, but it really draws your eye in there. It really, really highlights that. Okay. I'm going to show you another one. So this is Paleo Baking at Home. This is by Michelle Rosen, creator of Paleo Running Mama. I'm not familiar with this. This isn't my cookbook. The other one was. This is what I'm talking about. So this is kind of a vertical. It's taller than it is wider. And instead of showing one brownie, they've stacked it and it reinforces the shape and it literally draws your eye down with the icing. It's a very smart composition. Again, this is a square shape on a rectangular page, so they chose to repeat it in varying angles. It's not the same angle. Okay, so these are kind of repeating angles, these are kind of reinforced. This is how they're showing a square on a rectangle. This is really like interesting ways, and again, two squares stacked. Here we go. So we have two pies, and this is how they're choosing to fill the page. They're doing a little bit of a second one that's cropped off. So when you think about illustrating something, and you're thinking about layout and you're thinking about composition, pull out some of your cookbooks and figure out how so they're doing circles here, and it's all repeating. This is part of a towel, but it definitely arches with the plates. Okay, see how it bounces? And they're highlighting this pie. Now, I honestly think the pie could be a little bit centered more, but that's just personal preference. Here they have two to fit the rectangle. This is key lime pie, and then they have the fruit. See? It bounces your eye to the bright lime green. And it all blends together. This is their composition. They're showing one, but you have something else in the background too that fills the space. So when you're doing rectangular illustrations, how you choose to fill the page is your composition. And again, they have repeating. This is a donut. Obviously, this is just desserts. And here they're looking straight down. And they've chose to show you, you know, the baking sheet with the paper and then 8 scones with lots of fun little berries that bounce your eye around. But it fills a rectangular shape. This is why going to the library, you don't have to go just specifically to the art section. Now there's her in her kitchen. And they gave you part of the handle, so you can really see that this is like a cast iron skillet. This is a skillet cookie. Some of this is amazing. And now we're hungry. I apologize. Here they chose to give you the circle, and then they gave you a stack and a vertically tall milk glass to fill this page. So when you're thinking about composition, do tons of doodles, do tons of little sketches, do those little thumbnails of how you would fit specific things in that shape. And it can be like 30-second thumbnails. We're not going for full illustration power here. We're just doing a doodle to test composition. So if one of your goals for 2025 is how to fill the page better, or how to have stronger compositions, or how to make things more visually appealing because you want to sell them or gift them, or just level up your art level, start going through your own personal library, start doing those little thumbnails, and it'll help a ton. So I hope this video helped. I hope it gave you a couple ideas. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful week, and I will talk to you later. Bye.